Dun, 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 dun. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Bum, 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 bum. What's up, party people in the house?
What up, though?
Welcome to Texas Live, one of the sexiest voices in the SFL,
Mr. Master.
Dave Axis. What's up, party people of the SFL? Oh my goodness, what do I see in there? Dave Axis, I thought when you went live late night you were going to secret recap of your game. Are you trying to be funny? Ethan, you should take your show on the road, bro. Stand-up comedy. What's up? What's up? What's up, party people? Welcome. And thank you to tuning in. Season 16, episode 14 of Axis Live. I'm your host, Dave Axis. Everybody hear the music okay? Everybody can see and hear me okay, I'm assuming. Looks like we got a whole bunch of people in already. Lots of people chatting. Love that. We got a kick-ass show tonight. We got a kick-ass panel coming on in a few minutes. Week 7 recaps. Week 7 Diva of the Week nominee. We've got Gunny's Pearls of Wisdom, the wisest man in the SFL. We have a Survivor pool update. Some people got kicked out. We've got next on Netma tonight. And on After Dark, we are going to be talking about the new playoff standings, the new playoff brackets. And then I've got a few special announcements, one of which I believe is the cat's kind of out of the bag already, but we'll talk about that in a second. But let me get to the party peeps in the chat. The long arm of the law, Ray, Van Lacey, or Evan Lacey, Will Todd, Charles, Tyler Falk, Nacho, Fox, Highwind, Hackers here. Let me see. Leon Thunderman is back. Good to see you, Ethan Kai. Of course, you're here. M. Davis Fleet, Art Vandalay, Bob Funk, Ron Cochran, Bryant Dynasty, Optimus Klein, David Leathers, Eddie Gage, what up, though? Doug Britton, Max Jackson's in the house. The lovely, amazing, beautiful, perfect pink Lisa is with us. Gunny's in the house, of course. Benji Matson, what's up? Swole. Going to throw you some props here in a minute. Appreciate you. Alan's in the house, it looks like. James Walters, 87, is here. Looks like that's about it right now. I'm sure we'll get some people coming in here in just a few minutes. Before I get to the panel, let me throw out a few things. Number one, you can see there are now emotes. We have emotes. We have 4 for Tier 1, 1 for Tier 2, 1 for Tier 3. I left one blank for Tier 1, so I want you guys to give me feedback on what you guer think the 5th Level 1 emote should be, and I'll make that happen before the next show. So throw out your ideas, your suggestions in the chat. In addition to that, we have Bits Tier badges now. So I don't know if you guys can see that, but depending on how many bits you cheer, you're going to get badges. And so that's already done. And then what I plan on getting done before the next show is we're going to have loyalty badges. And those will be for people, I guess, I think, I got to finish doing the research, who have either subscribed for a certain amount of months. Maybe it's followers for a certain amount of months. I'm not sure which one. I will look into it. But you'll have different badges to be able to put by your name. So we spent a lot of time over the last few days putting all this together. And I want to throw out a special shout out, a very special thank you to Swole. Swole's in the house right here. Swole is the one who helped me figure out the emote thing. I know everybody had been asking for it and calling for it. And Swole is the one who helped me hook it up over the last couple of days. So big props to Swole. Give him thank yous. Appreciate that. Yes, you do need some stinking badges, Charles. So again, Swole, thank you, bro. Really appreciate your help, and I appreciate you. That being said, let me see here. Oh, you know what I didn't do? Shit. I mean, dang. I mean, golly gee willikers. Look at me. I'm already swearing. We're only a couple minutes in. I forgot to put the party people thing up. Let me see. Anybody in there say anything important? Oh, Swole, yeah, no problem. Thank you. Look at Benji Matson with the Axis Live emote. Look at these peeps. You guys are all over it. All right, let's check out tonight's panel. In the first circle, which is the unscripted circle, it's always the unscripted circle. It is the one, the only, the general manager of the Vancouver Legion. Uh-oh. Where'd he go? Oh, hey, I hit the wrong button. Coco, I almost kicked you to the curb, bro. Mike Prococo's in the house. Coco, what's up, bro?
No, I wouldn't be that lucky.
Hey, yo. Wait, what are you trying to say? You don't want to be here?
I love being here. And gee, those emoticons.
Wait, hey, how long have you been married? Because you lie really well.
on the first, and she won't be the last.
Oh, whoa. Breaking news here on Access Live. All right, anyway, Coco, welcome back to the show, bro. Thanks for being here. In the Unfiltered Circle, we have the eighth, I guess he's my eighth favorite tight end from what I heard earlier today. The vice president of everything that is the Fort Worth Toros. It is the one, it is the only Robert Garrett Jr. Robert, are you sure you're top 10 for me, bro? I'm just wondering.
You actually dropped the number down a couple from what I said.
What did you say?
I said 6.
Oh, shit. 6, 8, 220, 221, you know. Whatever.
I also wanted to point out, Dave, Ethan's only trash talking you because from third place, there's only one direction.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, we're the only team that they're above. Is that what it is? Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Okay. I understand. That makes a lot more sense now. In the unedited circle tonight, as I can find this here real quick. There we go. Is the one, the only, the cornerback from the glorious Lone Star Glory, Mr. Studio himself, Bo Martin Jr., back in the studio. So a couple shows ago, or maybe it was last show, Bo, you did like a whole Matrix thing from somewhere else to this location. Have you been stuck there ever since?
I have been stuck here, Dave, but the good news is it is a glorious Tuesday evening, and I've got everything lined up. I should be able to teleport back to where I need to be as soon as the show is over.
Sounds good. Ethan Kai just did 100 bits, and I don't see the new thing, so I wonder if it's still in the approval process. For those of you who don't know, I don't even know if all of the emotes have been approved. Apparently, you put them into Twitch, and then they have to approve them. So, Ethan, at 100, you should have something else. I don't know why you're not showing it. I don't know. All right, and then in the unforgettable circle, the man, the myth, the legend, who is always in the unforgettable circle whenever he is on this show, for the many, many unforgettable things he says, not only on this show, but on his own show and while he's broadcasting. Ladies and gentlemen, the number one draft pick, Mr. Tyler Falk. Tyler, what's up?
Doing well. You're talking to the brand new, as of this past weekend, the new head scout over at San Diego. So,
there you go.
So there we go. There's a little bit of a bright spot there in San Diego.
Congrats to you. Congrats on the promotion. That's going to be a lot of work for you, though. So I hope you're ready to dig in.
Oh, definitely. Working to put together a team, and for all you rookies out there that are in the SFLM and wanting to, maybe put in a few extra, hours or something like that for a team. Definitely looking to get a very big scouting department going in San Diego. So let's talk.
Awesome. Look at Pink Lisa. She got. Ethan, you got it too. Okay, good. So the bit thing is working. That's good. So Ray did. I guess you get a diamond at first, and then it gives you the picture afterwards, I guess, or whatever. Am I drinking coffee? No, I'm not drinking coffee, Charles. I only do that in the morning. Whenever I come onto the show and I have to deal with you, I always start drinking. So let's get into these games, you guys. Week 7, there was a few upsets. By my count, maybe 4 or 5, maybe almost half the games were upsets, which I'm not really happy to talk about since we were one of them. But we'll worry about that when we get to it. In the meantime, there was the slate this weekend, Week 7. There were Saturday, March 6th games. There's Sunday, March 7th games on the right. Everything kicked off this weekend, Coco, with Denver at Portland. And although Denver was a decent favorite, and I'm sure who you got, and we'll get to that in a minute, I'm sure it was a landslide for Denver. The history between these two teams is that Portland plays them very close. And they did it again. So break this game down for us.
Well, I mean, appearances can be a little confusing. First of all, look at that Portland defense, our Vandalay. For the most part, Denver time of possession this game was 25-59. But coming into this game, actually, Portland's time of possession was just over 23 minutes on average for the season, which is a little bit surprising. So yeah, and if anyone watched this game, it was a little sad, but it was a little funny as well, because one of the keys to this game was
sad and funny.
Yeah, because
is this a rom-com or what is this?
Well, one of the keys to the game was they had to survive the first quarter.
Okay.
I didn't know there was only one quarter in football, and I felt kind of bad. That's all they had to do in order to win this game. So Portland's defense looked really good, but here's the thing: there was one play in particular, and Jeremy, if you're in the chat, I do apologize, and Eddie, cover your ears because you don't like it. What's static? Are we getting static, Eddie?
You're a little crackly.
Is that better?
It is better.
Yeah.
Is it just that you were too close to your microphone?
It's peaking.
Okay, there you go. Go ahead. Go ahead and finish, please.
Not like my life was.
Hey, and
just
by the way,
waiting
real
on
quick,
that.
I'll give you a little extra time since we got the clock going tonight. We just hit level 1 completed on another hype train. And by the way, for those of you who, I don't know that you can see it. If you can, let me know. And Coco, I'm not going to take, I'll give you this time back, trust me. Is on the level 3 emotes, there's a picture of the real me with the Axis hat and sunglasses from the logo, and it says hype across the chest. That was made by Mr. Cam Curtis. So Cam Curtis, thank you for that. That is the level 3 emote. I don't know how you get there. So if you're on level 3 or whatever, you can thank Cam Curtis for that. All right, Coco, go ahead and finish. Sorry about that. I'm not really sorry. I just like saying
No,
that.
it was a cash grab. I'm
It
completely
was.
behind it.
Oh, level 2 complete, by the way. Go ahead.
Nice. Money. All right. So Portland's defense looked good overall, but there was one glaring defect, and that was there was a play. It was a gun straight 50 XA post. And it came out a couple of times in this game, and every time that it came out, Portland was caught in dime coverage. The first time it came out, it went for 43 yards. Battle scored a touchdown right after that. Then there was another one that came out where Giacomo Jones caught it for 24 yards. A touchdown led right after that. There was 3 or 4 times that this came out. One was actually a touchdown in the end zone on this play.
Yeah.
So I know Portland's defense looked like it was good, and it was a good game plan. But when you have one play and one coverage that consistently comes out that ruins your day, it's a little misleading. Now, granted, that play did come out, and you guys did get a pick 6, Portland, if you're out there, because I know you're probably out there cursing me right now. So I'm trying to. It actually leads the league in picks. I'm having one of those moments that you decided to talk on.
That's okay. Hey, let me ask you real quick. What do you think? How cool was it that you've got one of the front runners for MVP in Denver's backfield, in McChesney rushing for 186 yards? But how about Ezekiel Love stepping up his game and hanging with him with 145 yards of his own?
He did, and one of those actually came off of it was showdown because he had a nice pick 6 that came off of that same play, but it was a little compressed against the end zone, which I think allowed you to step in front of it. And actually, Nuevo actually had a sack 2 plays before that. I think rattled Denver a little bit. But it was nice because he actually got a 70-yard rush play off of a tray counter to the left-hand side, and it's always nice when you see these young backs develop that you're able to see them kind of fit into these roles. And he's going to be a huge piece in Portland as they move forward.
Kind of crazy. 17-16 at halftime. No points scored in the fourth quarter. Denver gets. I don't know. Do we say lucky, or do you think they were in control of this game, Coco? Before I get to Jack's data right now.
They were. No, I mean their playbook is defined enough where there's certain plays that they want to come out during the game that they're going to come out, and it wasn't in a 2-minute drill or anything like that. They know exactly what they were doing.
Awesome. Well, before I get to Jack's data, whoop whoop, what's up? We just finished a level 4 hype train, and we're 63% onto level 5 already. I don't know what's going on in here. I mean, look I do emotes. Swole helps me put emotes in here, and everybody goes crazy. Ethan says we're almost at level 6. I don't know what's going on here. I'm going to get back to some football real quick before this thing gets out of hand. Jack's data had this over under at 52.5 with 54 points scored in the game. They almost nailed it. We just hit level 5 hype train, ladies and gents. I love when we do this. This is like the 3rd time I think we've done this. This is amazing. You guys are off the chain. I love you guys getting all excited in the chat. This is a party. Look at that. It's even got confetti in the chat there. What do you know? You can't have a party without confetti. Denver only was favored 7.5, so I think Jack's data knew something most of us didn't know, that this was going to be a close game. So they nailed pretty much the over/under and the spread. SFL Nation, of course, we took Denver 152-32, which was a hell of a lot wider range than the score was, and we start off 1-0 in Week 7 on Saturday. Moving on to Game 2, Louisiana at Houston. Robert Garrett Jr., I kind of expected this game to be a little closer. I know Houston has been one of the hottest teams in the league lately, but Louisiana looked like they were kind of getting their act together the last few weeks. What happened here on Saturday?
Yeah, the biggest issue Saturday for the Louisiana Revolution was the turnover game. Johnny Pickler, 4 interceptions, and it's funny. I sat back to watch the games, and the first play I see when I turned the game on was actually Johnny Pickler throwing a pick 6 to the linebacker Brody Gulch. But, Houston's defense just played a really good game against Louisiana. And then when the offense got on the field, they were able to get it going and stay alive. Their third down percentage, 62 compared to Louisiana's 45.
Real quick, Robert, sorry. So I guess we did a level 5 hype train. I don't know what the 233% part means, but okay. In the meantime, everybody's just blowing up these emotes. And look at Pink Lisa putting pink wings on the Axis Live emote. Atta girl, Pink Lisa. You're kind of hot. I might even marry you. Let's see. Who else we got on here that's throwing stuff around? Ethan and Swole and everybody. Gunny, the whole 9 yards. You guys are having fun in there. I hope you guys are listening to us at the same time. Robert, where does Louisiana go from here? I mean, obviously Houston is on a roll. They're trying to sneak up on Fort Worth and Mexico City in the Tex-Mex division. But Louisiana, I kind of feel like they really needed this win. Where do they go from here?
Yeah, no, they got to figure out a way to bounce back fast. I'm not quite sure off the top of my head what their schedule looks like from here on out. But there's not a whole lot of room for them to stumble back as they have so far. If they're looking to make the playoffs, they've got to make a push sooner than later.
Yeah, you mentioned Johnny throwing, was it 4 interceptions to only, I believe it was 1 touchdown. Let me pull it up real quick. Yeah, 1 touchdown. And, we've talked about that a lot on this show where quarterbacks who throw more interceptions than touchdowns more than not lose the game. Where you look at Houston, E.T. King, even 2 touchdowns, 2 passes, almost 300 yards. So a solid game for E.T. King managing the game. It's not like he threw, 6 touchdowns with no interceptions, but he managed the game well. And he got, he hit Warren Murray for 13 passes, which was the most. Leroy Brown for 7, D.R. Sim for 5, Stephen Walker for 4. So he distributed the ball well. How key was E.T. King on Saturday in this victory against Louisiana?
Yeah, E.T. King was very important for Houston's offense. Warren Murray, only 19 carries for 56 yards. They weren't quite able to get it going on the ground, so they needed to lean on E.T. King. And the other important thing with that is Louisiana was coming out on a lot of 4-2-5 nickel kind of sets. And so it helped Warren Murray out because they had to play honest to E.T. King, try to stack the defense to best play against the pass.
Real quick, just in a few seconds, Robert, touch on Reggie Streeter. 16 carries for only 40 yards, 2.5 yards a carry.
Yeah, I think if there was one shocking thing anybody would have predicted at the start of the season, it would not have been that Reggie Streeter's kind of struggled the way that he has this season. To go from an MVP to these kind of numbers, it's got to be tough on the guy.
I don't know what else may have happened. I just got a big message that said we had hype train success. So thank you everybody for whatever you did in here here it is. You received a level 5 hype train, only visible to you. Share. Let's share it. What happens if I share it? What happened? Oh, I got a choo-choo with some money. And a whoop-whoop from Swole. What's up? All right. Awesome, you guys. Thank you so much. I love when you guys have a good party in there like that. All right, Jack's data, second game on Saturday. Over under 47.5. They scored 41, pretty close. They had Houston favored by 3.5, which they beat by double digits. And SFL Nation, 2-0 out the gate, although this one was a lot closer than game one, 98-82 in favor of Houston as we go 2-0 moving into Vancouver at Jacksonville. You know, Bo, we talked about this on Thursday. This had game of the week potential written on it. If I look at the stats, I look at the score, I'm kind of confused and I'm not sure that it was. Was it?
No, not at all. In fact, it was a takeover. Vancouver, they had lost 3 in a row, so a lot of people were concerned that Vancouver was just in a free fall. After starting out at 3-0, they lost 3 in a row, and so people were concerned. And I tell you, when I tell you Vancouver got their swagger back, Vancouver got their swagger back. It was total domination, and I was kind of surprised that Jacksonville didn't put up a better fight. I mean, the score says 37-24.
Yeah.
But let me just say the score was 31-10 at the start of the fourth quarter.
Okay.
So Jacksonville was lethargic would be being nice. Being truthful and saying what I want to say. I want to say that Jacksonville's secondary looks like they were taking blood thinners because they could not stop a nosebleed. I don't know what happened to Jacksonville's secondary. Vancouver's not known necessarily for their passing attack, but they literally ate Jacksonville's secondary alive. Tom Pepper looked like the veteran that we've all been waiting to see. We know he's been up and down this year. 82% completion rate for 421 yards, 3 touchdowns to 0 interceptions, which is exactly what we've been expecting from Tom Pepper. But, in the last 3 games, we just haven't been seeing it. Now, there was a downside. Robert Redford could not get going. I don't know if you see the stats. Robert, 17 carries for only 25 yards. Now, they didn't really need it, to be honest. I mean, the passing attack was so deadly, they didn't really need it. Even Robert Redford was one of the leading receivers. He had 17 receptions for 117 yards. So he wasn't involved in the rush game, but he was very involved in the pass game. And, on the flip side of the ball, Jacksonville just could not seem to get it together defensively. Their offense wasn't half bad, 338 total yards. Christian Christensen, rather. They seem to be able to get pressure on him, did Vancouver. He only completed 28 out of 49 passes. 2 touchdowns to 1 interception, 3 sacks. But for some reason, they couldn't really get anything going in the pass game. Jared Willis had an okay day, but they didn't really get him the ball enough. Christian Christensen is not set up to throw the ball 50 times in a game. With a running back like Jared Willis, they should have shared the ball a little bit more. Jared had 11 carries the entire game. He did get 72 yards, and I know they were playing from behind for most of the game, so that may have played a part in it. But 11 carries the entire game, that kind of explains this game got out of control real fast.
Vancouver padding their stats for sure. They're already the number one in almost all the offensive categories. Brett Killian, 9 receptions, 153 yards and 2 picks. Kendra Hall, 5 receptions. I'm not picks, sorry, touchdowns. Kendra Hall, 5 receptions and another touchdown. I mean, when Vancouver's offense is on, it's the most deadly offense in the entire league, bro.
They are on. I mean, you had 2 receivers in those that you just named with 17 yards or better per reception on average. 2 receivers with that. And then you to add to it with Robert Redford, with 17 receptions for 117 yards, that passing attack was brutal, and Jacksonville just was not ready. I'm not quite sure what they were doing in that defensive backfield. The receivers had an okay day for Jacksonville. Neither one of the receivers broke 100 yards. Ken Gossett was the closest with 99. Josh Farnsey from Vancouver had a phenomenal day on defense with 6 tackles and a wonderful pick 6. But Vancouver they played great on both sides of the ball. And it was good to see them with such a strong comeback. And I was getting ready to pour some dirt on top of them. But after this win, they are resurrected.
Well, I mean, let's see where they go from here, right? You win 3, you lose 3, and then you win 1. Let's see if they can actually turn it into at least another 3-game winning streak. Jack's data had this over-under at 52.5, 61 points, definitely within the 10 points we talk about, and minus 3.5. So Jacksonville was actually favored by 3.5 and did not cover. And also, who else didn't cover? SFL Nation didn't cover. They took Jacksonville 125-53, so they got their butt handed to them on that one, which makes them 2-1 on Saturday, moving into Game 4. You know, the interesting thing I wanted to say, Robert, you don't need to comment back. I just wanted to throw this out there. Several, at least 3 that I saw, leading receivers for this weekend, running backs for their teams. Crazy. A lot of running back passes, a lot of swing passes and stuff this week. All right, St. Louis to Florida, Tyler. St. Louis started off 5-0. Now they're 5-2. Florida lost their first game of the season, but they've been pretty steady since then. What's going on with St. Louis dropping 2 in a row? Is it just hitting tougher teams? Did they, again, there's nothing wrong with saying you're 5-0 maybe because you didn't have a great schedule, because number one, you have to play the schedule in front of you, but number two, if you beat the teams you're supposed to beat, that's a good thing, right?
Exactly. I think the biggest thing coming out of these past 2 weeks is teams have figured out how to beat them, and that's something that they're going to have to look to improve on. With Florida, dual-headed rushing attack of Beletsky and Doyle rocking off a long 50-plus yard touchdown late in the game. I think what really stands out to me is the secondary of St. Louis, that Florida was able to finally punch through at the end, scoring 21 points in the fourth quarter alone, and holding St. Louis to donut in that quarter. So it just really goes to show that you have to play the game through all 4 quarters in order to have a shot at winning a football game. And that's something that St. Louis just wasn't able to do. They relied a little bit more on their defense this past week, and it burned them.
Yeah, I saw on the post-game show with Cam and Mike St. Green that Doyle got a game ball. I'm not sure if you saw that or not. And I don't remember the reason. I mean, he had 4 carries, 66 yards, and a touchdown. 3 receptions for another 35 yards, another touchdown. I mean, not terrible. 2 touchdowns. No spectacular numbers, but apparently he got Mike St. Green's attention. Charlie Beletsky, on the other hand, 19 carries for only 45 yards. So, this is that 2-headed running back system we've been talking about in Florida. And it seems now early in the season it was Charlie Beletsky. Is it switching over to Doyle now?
Was what the game plan called for, to throw St. Louis for a loop and use. They didn't really use Doyle a whole lot. I mean, again, limited number of carries, but at the same time, they used him in a way that confused the St. Louis defense in order for him to break off a big run, order for him to get a couple passes thrown his way. So it's definitely more game plan than just switching things up, and it's something that now teams have to look out for when they're game planning for him.
In a typical game from Ron Cochran, right? Manage the game just enough to win. Now, granted, they won by 17, but 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, again, is on that cusp of what we talk about with quarterbacks. Almost 300 yards, but definitely outplayed the rookie, Christian Brown. Christian going against a very tough Florida defense, 252 yards, but 1 pass down and 2 interceptions. Christian Brown has had some good games, but when he has to play these elite defenses, we kind of got to remember he's still a rookie.
Right. And I mean, he's done very well for himself up to this point. These games are going to come and go. He knows this. The team knows this. But I think for St. Louis being 5-2 at this point in the season, they're still in a great spot to make it to the playoffs. As long as they, don't overcorrect too much going into next week and thereafter, St. Louis will be just fine.
Yeah, Dwayne said in the chat, to be fair, we had 2 injuries in the fourth quarter, including Colin, which some people were saying he's going to be Defensive Player of the Year, and we led until the last 6 minutes. So, again, I didn't see this whole game, so maybe, I guess, Florida poured it on late, apparently. But, that's what happens, right? You have a couple injuries, the team gets hot, and next thing you know, you lose by 17. Jack's data had this game over under 48.5 with 37. It was pretty close to that 10-point differential. This was a pick'em. Definitely outscored a pick'em. And look at us, SFL Nation, back on track. We took Florida 114 to 62 to go 3-1 on Saturday, going into Game 5, Tulsa, Mexico City. Now, here's the thing, Coco. This game was going on during my game, so I didn't get to see it. I was watching the score in the left-hand corner. It looked close. Then it looked like Mexico City kind of extended a big lead. Then it looked like Tulsa came back. Tell us about this game, especially for those who didn't get a chance to see it.
I wasn't watching this game.
Well, you were watching LSG, right, baby? What's up? We're
Yeah.
watching us our roller coaster ride. We'll talk about that in a minute.
It was it was like you could see the score going up and down, but much like Bo said, this non-passing threat of Mexico City actually had three three solid quarters in which, when going into the fourth, they were up 38 to 14, and it was more one-sided than appearances look. You can't lie about it. Mexico City, Ramos is pretty scary this season. He's got, between the four wide receivers, between Ray and between Phoenix, their offense is pretty crazy, and covering them is a pretty ridiculous challenge. Now, going into this game, Bentley was shy of 2,200 carries, which is pretty crazy. And Dan Tritz, I'm not going to give you the number, but I'll just say maybe you got to turn in next week, or maybe it was this week. But Dan Tritz is close to the rookie records in sacks and tackles for a loss. So that's something to keep in mind, and maybe you guys want to watch Mexico City next week. And then Phoenix Jones, he looked impressive at the end of the season last year, and coming into this game this season so far, he actually he averages a touchdown for every 12.6 touches that he gets.
Wow. Which
is nuts. And that's, Ramos has done a great job this year of just incorporating every single player they have. This was a pass heavy game from all facets. Of course, Manning had his typical kick return yards and his punt return yards, and he was basically the main focal point. I will say the first touchdown for Tulsa, because we have Tyler here, it was Viva la France. I think Tyler was actually on the call for this game.
Yeah.
Like, I can hear him in my brain with that call. God. But yeah. And it's... people need to create more pressure on Matt Wilson, because his completion percentage was 82% this game.
Yeah, I see that.
But the thing was, they were efficient. They had a lower time of possession, and what it was is pretty much any time they touched the ball, they went towards the end zone. I mean, Tulsa had more total yards, a higher third down percentage.
Yep, more time of possession. I mean, the whole night, yeah, they dominated the stats for sure.
But here's the thing: is that third down percentage is so low for Mexico City, because pretty much any time they touched the ball on first or second down, they would score a touchdown. So they never really had a shot. How many? 3 for 8 compared to 12 for 16. So Tulsa had double the third down attempts that Mexico City had.
Well, I mean, all Phoenix Jones does is score touchdowns, right? I mean, that's number one. The other thing, real quick, and you don't need to comment on it necessarily, but JQ, the rookie, you put him in a position to have to throw. He threw for 448 yards on 61 attempts and 4 touchdowns, but unfortunately, he also threw 4 picks. That's a lot of pressure to put on a rookie to bring you back that far in a game. Jack's data had this over-under 50.5. They blew that out of the water with 83 points. And Mexico City was favored by 6.5, and they took care of that as well. SFL Nation, look at us, man. 153 to only 33. We took Mexico City to go 4-1 going into the last game on Saturday, Robert, which is a game that we really don't have to talk about if you don't want to. It was a fun game, I think, as a spectator, right? DC rushes out to a 21-point lead in the first quarter. Lone Star scores 20-something points later in the third to take a 28-24 lead. Then I think DC retakes the lead. But there was a time there before DC took the lead where we were up and we forced them to punt. Or I'm sorry, we punted. They fumbled the ball but recovered their own fumble. as you tell us about the rest of the game, do you think that was a key point in the game that if we had recovered that fumble, could things have gone differently?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You never know what kind of points could come off of a turnover. Usually, it's a pretty big momentum swing in the game. But yeah, as you said, this game was a complete roller coaster from every aspect of it, emotional, as a fan, as a player. Everybody went through a roller coaster ride in this game, and Kevin Say was a big part of this game.
God.
23 carries, 185 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And, I can just hear the Lone Star locker room screaming together.
and let's, Robert, let's point out 185 yards against the number 1 run defense in the league going into last week. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, in general, with the new settings and things, a lot of teams have struggled with getting a run game going. So being able to do that, as you said, against one of the top run defenses in the league, it's just outstanding.
Yeah. The other interesting thing, both quarterbacks played almost identical, almost the exact same yards, same amount of touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Quarterback play was, very similar. I think the difference in the game was definitely Kevin Say, number 1. I'm looking at a couple messages in the chat. People saying DC, a well-deserved win for them and kind of overdue, which is true. I mean, they almost won a couple other games before this. Everybody knew they were due, and nobody wanted to be that team to do it. You're a South Division Tex-Mex member, Robert. How grim are things looking for Lone Star right now?
I don't necessarily think it's all bad for them yet. I know if your schedule is anything like ours, 3 of our last 4 games are in division. So in that aspect, it's going to be tough on any team that has that kind of schedule if it is that way. But, you got a couple weeks. You're able to kind of look at what went wrong there and kind of piece things together before the last section of the schedule, which is usually where you're digging to get into the playoffs or you're trying to stay from getting knocked out of them.
Yeah, and let's talk about defense real quick, especially the defensive backfield. For DC, Jack Russell and Eric Gugger, they played out of their minds. They both had an interception, but they were just all over the field, both of them, and they made key plays. And then on the Lone Star side, can you say enough about Evan Lacy and the way he came to play in his tribute game?
Oh, yeah, it's just, I think everybody talks about it. Sometimes it just feels like the game knows what's going on and what people are talking about or the kind of things that are happening, just like Rich's touchdown last season.
Right.
The game just does
the
like
game
that.
just knows.
It's hard to talk about it. It's really cool for people to be able to have this option like the Lacey family does.
Yeah. Jack's data in this game had Lone Star favored by 6. Obviously, we didn't cover that. Over under 44.5, which we scored 66, and there could have been a couple more touchdowns, maybe even on each side in that game, which brings SFL Nation to a loss to go 4-2 on Saturday, as we took Lone Star 144-38. But DC had other ideas. Robert, real quick before we go to Gunny, is this the upset of the weekend?
Absolutely.
Okay. I tend to agree with you. Gunny, are you around by any chance?
Sir, yes, sir.
So I got a couple questions for you, mostly because I'm stalling because I forgot to set your music up again.
Not a problem.
But how did you feel about? Obviously, it sucked to lose to DC, to be the team that gives them their first win of this season. But what did you think about the play of Evan Lacy? And if that's part of your pearls of wisdom, then you don't need to answer now. But I was just curious, since you were actually playing in the game with him in the backfield, what your thoughts were.
I was very proud of how Evan played in honor for his family and his son. I'm sure his son would have been proud of how his dad played in that game.
Yeah,
wearing his son's high school jersey.
Yeah.
Van did outstanding.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think there were a couple plays there where he had his helmet in somebody's chest. And then I think, wasn't it him that put Kevin Say out of the game near the end of the game?
I believe so, yes.
I believe it was.
He nailed somebody down the middle.
Awesome. All right, Gunny, I'm finally ready. The volume might be high at first, but you can rock and roll whenever you're ready.
Well, congratulations to all the teams that won over the weekend. I'm sorry to say my team was not one of them, but I will give a shout out to the DC Dragons again for that team honoring the Lacey family, especially to Jeff Banfield for wearing the number 4 Van. Also to the ownership of the DC Dragons, Jermaine Smith and Stephen Mullinax. Also, some key players in the game, Kevin Say, Josh Gill, Kay Marion. They blocked the hell of me every time Kevin Say went for those touchdown runs. And a shout-out to Jack Brown and Eddie Gage for calling the game and doing the tribute at the beginning of the game for all the Lone Star faithful. And again, Van, Lacey, love you guys. I hope everything's well with you, and congratulations on a great game. I'm sorry we couldn't pull out the victory for you. And Dave, with that is all.
All right, Gunny, thank you so much. As you were doing this, I just wanted to throw a quick shout out to Ray for getting the lyrics to the Marine hymn out there on time. Appreciate that. Also, I noticed DR Sim was in the chat. Damon, if you're still listening, you said a lot of folks overlook time of possession and third down percentage. Can you expand on that a little bit? Because I think part of the point on a couple of these games, especially like the Mexico City game, they got dominated in both of those categories, yet they dominated on the scoreboard. So if you can expand on that a little bit, just in the chat, and I'll jump to it in a second as we move on to Game 7 of the weekend, Game 1 on Sunday. Probably a game. Like, I didn't want to talk about the last game. I'm sure Robert Garrett Jr. doesn't want to hear about this game, Bo. Fort Worth has been on a roll. They're still 5-2, tied for the second best record in the SFL. But they ran into an Arizona team that just seemed motivated playing at home, and now they're 4-3 and they're probably in a playoff spot and only a game out of time for the second best record themselves.
Yeah, and it's really ironic, Dave, that you mentioned third down percentage, because I don't know if he was staring at my notes or what, but that's exactly where I wanted to go for Fort Worth. One of the first things I was going to point out is Fort Worth just couldn't seem to get the ball going. They couldn't seem to stay on the field. They were 3 for 9 on third down, and they just couldn't seem to convert on third down, and I think that's what really cost them the game. If you look at their numbers were average. They weren't horrible. But the one thing that stood out to me is that third down conversion rate. And so that's ironic that you brought that up. But they had a pretty good game, 337 total yards, but 287 of those were passing yards. Fort Worth just could not get their running game going. Jason Williams was a non-factor, basically. He had 18 rushes for 40 yards, and then 5 receptions for another 35, but pretty much a non-factor. Pretty much all Ashley Jackson had to do was just not play absolutely horrible, and they would win the game. And she did just that. She played an average game, 22 for 36, not horrible, but not great either. 263 pass yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and she was sacked twice. But one thing I wanted to hone in on, Mr. Feast and Famine himself, DJ Moses.
Yeah.
DJ Moses with 27 carries for 154 yards, with an average of a 5.7 average yards per carry. Now, I want to put that in perspective for you because he had 154 yards rushing this game. Going into this game, Dave, he had 444 yards. So in one game, he increased his yards total by 25%. Now, to put that in even greater perspective, DJ Moses had another game a couple of games back against London where he got 150 yards. So that means out of his 598 total yards, he's got half of them in 302 games, rather.
Right.
So half of those. So, I think that DJ Moses is a weapon that Arizona really needs to use or try to get him more touches of the ball, because when he has a game like he did a couple of days ago, that changes them entirely. And you don't have to worry about those 7 interception games, or you don't have to worry about trying to make Ashley do more than she should, trying to force the ball like she sometimes gets forced to do. But on the flip side of the ball, there were some bright spots for Fort Worth. Robert Garrett Jr., of course, doing everything he does, 10 receptions for over 100 yards. Stephen Hacker had a great game. But then Arizona, it was pretty much DJ Moses' show, right? But the Hands brothers, as far as the receivers, they dominated the receiving game for Arizona. Donnie had 5 receptions, and James had another 4 receptions. But like I said, they didn't really have to do too much because DJ Moses carried the weight. And then you had Eddie Gage with 8 total tackles and a 1 wonderful interception. And then Joey Tropicana and BJ Loveless just dominated that back there in that defensive secondary. Between the two of them, they had 20 total tackles. So Fort Worth just couldn't get anything going, and the time of possession was steeply in Arizona's favor by almost 4 minutes. So I think Fort Worth may have got exposed a little bit, but we'll see how they handle. They're 5-2, but we'll see how they handle going forward. They've got a loss to Queen City and now a loss to Arizona. So we'll see. And a couple of their losses have been kind of sketchy, or their wins rather have been kind of close. So we'll see what happens when they start to play some real competition.
Yeah. Yeah. And, AJ was lucky to be one of the quarterbacks that actually escapes with a win after throwing more interceptions than touchdowns. I was actually looking forward to the running back scenario or competition in this. 2 great running backs, DJ obviously getting the better of this. But, Bo, what stood out to me is the last couple of weeks we've been talking about how Eddie Gage's offense has been clicking like crazy, but his defense, which he's known for, had been kind of suffering as of late, and they really stepped it up against a hot Fort Worth team this weekend. Before I get to Jack's data real quick, DR Sim answered me in the chat. He said, sure, I feel the time of possession and third down percentage is one of the keys to winning games. If you look at the teams that have won this week, a lot of them won both on these categories, which obviously this is one of the games. Yogi Barr, replying to DR Sim actually, says turnovers can be the great equalizer, which, I think turnovers is huge. And then DR Sim following up with going into our playoff game last season to face Jacksonville, I noticed that this team was number 1 in third down percentage. I knew if we could come close to the 66% on the season, we could win that playoff game against Jacksonville. They beat us 37-34 in that game, and Jacksonville third down percentage 65% to Houston 63%. Both of those are actually outstanding. So a lot of interesting things. We talk about the quarterback stats. Yogi's talking about the turnovers. Damon's talking about third down percentage and time of possession. There's a lot of factors to all these games, especially now being on Legends mode. It seems like every little thing matters. Jack's data had this game at 47.5 over under. I'm sorry. Is that right? Oh, yeah. Yeah, 47.5. Sorry, I want to make sure I was right because it seems so far off. So they weren't crazy off 33, so they're not within the 10 points. But Fort Worth was actually favored by 7.5 in this game. They obviously did not cover. SFL Nation, however, we recover from our last loss on Saturday, 107-75. We took Arizona to jump out to a 1-0 record on Sunday, moving into Game 2. Tyler, Sioux Falls in London. This may go down as the craziest game of the week. I know, like the Lone Star game was a roller coaster game, but this game, what was it? London was up 10-0. I think maybe even 13-0. I can't remember if it was 10-7 before Sioux Falls scored again. But dude, I thought London had this game, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, out of nowhere, Sioux Falls says, "Now we're going to take it."
Yeah, it all happened real quick there, Dave. Let's just take the last 2 minutes. And it was 10-0 before Sioux Falls scored on a very nice touchdown down the near side of the field. But the last 2 minutes, London's inside the 30-yard line, 4th and inches in Sioux Falls territory. They're already up by 3. It's 10-7 late in the ball game. Their defense has, besides that one late touchdown, has been holding pretty well. So I get the idea of, let's kick a field goal, extend the lead to 6. They have to score a touchdown to win the game. Let's trust our defense, go from there. That's fine. For Sioux Falls coming out on the next drive, first 3 downs, incomplete. London's got this nailed down, until Sioux Falls burns them over the top to go, I believe it was like 70 plus yards
Yep.
for a touchdown to, get to where we were, 14-13. And it was just an untimely interception by Angus McLean at the end of the ball game that sealed the deal for the Knights.
Going back to this quarterback talk, if you throw more interceptions than touchdowns, you usually lose the game. However, if both quarterbacks do that, I'm going to go with either less interceptions or more touchdowns. So for Sioux Falls, Tyree throws 2 touchdowns with 3 interceptions, where Angus, I believe, threw 1 and 3, if I'm not mistaken. Just not a good game for the quarterbacks.
Not a good game for the offenses in general. I mean, we were talking about third down conversion percent earlier. Look at the third down conversion percent here.
Yeah, it was terrible. And to Yogi's point, 6 turnovers in this game as well. It's just offensively, it was a nightmare. So let me ask you this, Tyler. Do you chalk it up to 2 great defenses?
That's a real tough question. Both defenses did play rather well. We had a few nice plays. 3 interceptions on either side of the football. Both teams were involved. Getting behind the line and getting to the quarterback pretty nicely. I think it was just more the fact that both offenses just struggled to click, struggled to get going. For London, they got going pretty early, just couldn't sustain the pressure. Throughout that second half, whereas Sioux Falls couldn't get anything going within the first 3 quarters. It had to all come late, which just shows you the resiliency of that team away, probably dealing with jet lag, playing in London late at night in London. A whole lot of things, just throwing everybody for a loop. And for Sioux Falls, again, this team has shown to be good in previous seasons. They're starting to ramp up and become the team we all know they can be again.
Rizabit in the chat. No, what happened was there was a couple games, 2 or 3 games this week, where there was one where there was a power outage or something. There was 1 or 2 where they were not able to get screenshots of the time of possession. So if you see 0-0-0-0 on time of possession, like you do in this graphic, I think there's 2 or 3 this week. That means the league wasn't able to capture the data for one reason or another. So just a little heads up on that. Tyler, this game, Jack's data had the over-under at 47.5, which was way more than 27 points scored in this game. They had London favored by 6, which I think at the time on Thursday night I thought was actually a really good spread, but London unable to pull that out. SFL Nation, we also went with London, 117-64, so we dropped to 1-1 on Sunday going into Game 3, which, by the way, Coco, I said this along with the Vancouver-Jacksonville game, definitely up for Game of the Week. This one seemed to live up more to the billing than the other one.
Don't you love when you play somebody the week before and then Mark just comes along and does it better?
And does it? Well, I did when I was in Atlanta, but
So I want to just start 3 tackles and 1 pass deflection. I want to give it out for Swole. Good job, Swole. Quite a stat line. We love you.
Yes, and another key assist the last couple of days. But go ahead.
I mean, really, the key to this game is once again was Mark finding plays that have a high chance of success for Dynasty, and really they played a solid all around game. Dynasty didn't throw a single interception this game. He played at 88%, and granted he only threw for 289 yards, but that's all he really needed to do because they were efficient. I mean, they had Boo had 12. Boo. That's actually a big thing. Boo coming into this game was 9th overall at 8,932 yards, and he now is 8th overall on the all-time receiving list.
All right, congrats, Boo.
Yeah, beating out Nick Quick. And I think he had his 60th and 61st touchdown, if I remember correctly, because I think he scored 2 in this game. Yeah, he did. But again, like Boo had 12.1 yards per reception. Wooding 46 yards. Will Todd had 3 receptions for 16. They were just efficient all around. And some guy named Siege had 9 yards per reception.
Who?
Yeah, exactly.
Caw-caw.
And they found a way. It's just amazing when you watch them because BDG on the season, his yards per carry just doesn't seem to have an off game. Granted, he only had 4.8 yards per carry this game, but he had a couple of big runs. His long for the day was 53, but he manages to, get anywhere between 15 to 20 carries per game, and it's efficient. They don't care about slamming it with BDG right now. They just want it, so every time he touches the ball, he's going to get a couple yards out of it.
You know what, though? Let me ask you this, Coco. Everybody's high on the Vancouver offense for the most part. I mean, they did drop 3 in a row, but when they're on, they're the best offense. But when you have a game like this, when Dynasty throws for almost 300 yards, 88% completion percentage, 3 touchdowns with no interceptions, and then BDG rushes for almost 100 yards and a touchdown, can Atlanta be beat under these circumstances?
I mean, the scary thing is we all know that they're building up something, and they're building up Dynasty to kind of be what they want him to be. They're still being successful at it, which is they've done this before. They can. And look, my phone's on vibrate.
I heard that.
Yeah, first time. That's great. And then they can be beat, and you gotta catch them off guard. You need a really good game, but the thing is, on the defensive side, it's really hard to step in front of those Baltimore tight ends and take passes from them, especially because they got a lot of strength, a lot of aggression, and and you watched Moose this game, and Moose just
Moose played off his mind too.
Step right in front of Irvin and just pick the pass right. Yep. So it's when they're firing, they're firing.
My favorite part about this game, 2 great offenses with all that firepower, no turnovers. That was a beautiful thing to watch. Jack's Data had this over-under at 54.5. They blew that out of the water with 72 points. They had Baltimore favored by 6, actually, so they did not cover, and neither did SFL Nation. We took Baltimore 126 to 52 to drop to 1-2 on Sunday, moving into Game 4 on Sunday. Robert Garrett Jr. This was an interesting game. It seems like just yesterday we were talking about Queen City being near the bottom of the power rankings. Now all of a sudden they're a game away from being 500 and a couple games out of a playoff spot. Is this what we were expecting from Queen City after a slow start, or did we just not expect a slow start?
I think that people just didn't expect a slow start. I mean, if you go back to a lot of preview shows before the season started, a lot of people had Queen City, second place in the division, and maybe even a couple picked them to win. That I don't know off the top of my head. But I know before the season started, they were kind of a talking point. And then as they started kind of slow, they got the week 1 win against Fort Worth. And then after that kind of sputtered out. But, now working their way back into the limelight.
I don't know. Eddie Gage said something about Dave didn't see the pick 6. I'm not sure which game he was talking about. Was he talking about the ball?
He was talking about, because Moose had a pick 6.
Oh, yeah, I thought. No, I didn't. I didn't see it, but Coco brought it up. Yeah. Robert, Carolina's kind of in the same boat as Queen City, right? I mean, 3-4. They've been up and down. Did you expect them to come in and beat Queen City in Queen City? Or where did you see this game going before I ask you a couple more questions on this one?
I expected Carolina to kind of have a hard time. They're either their offense either gets it or they haven't this season. And, with a tough team like Queen City, one that controls the clock, this is another one, 6 minutes difference in time of possession between Queen City and Carolina. They're just going to run the ball down your throat with jet zero. And if your offense isn't clicking in a way to make it to the end zone quick, you might not have the time.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about Xander Gold up and down, right? I think it was last week he played great. This week, only 152 yards, no touchdowns with 2 picks. The good old vet, AJ Caswell, only 200 yards as well, but 2 touchdowns and a pick. Quarterback play seemed to be key in this as well, Robert. Obviously, Jet 0, 132 yards, but talk about the quarterback play and how key that was.
Yeah, I mean, the thing you're leaving out with AJ Caswell as well is only 16 completions. Didn't have to. I mean, he threw 26 times, completed 16 of them, but they didn't need him to make a bunch of big plays like they've kind of wanted him to some in the past this season. And maybe that's what they're figuring out is if they're leaning a little bit more on Jet Zero, AJ Caswell is able to clean up for the offense and help out by finding the end zone.
Yeah, Logan Jack, he's had a pretty good season so far, and so I hate to say only 90 yards, but if you rush for less than 100 yards and you don't get in the end zone, can you classify that as a good game in this league?
I would say yes, and it's actually because of the yards per carry. He only had 18 for 90 yards, but the yards per carry was 5.
Right.
So he carried the ball twice, and he was getting a first down. It kind of lays out in that way. Now, obviously, it didn't help out in the long run. He was not able to find the end zone either, but Carolina's offense was just kind of, as a whole, stagnant this week.
Yeah, Carolina just a touchdown away from being 4-3 and potentially being in the playoffs, but both these teams now at least a game out of the playoffs. Jack's data had this game at 45.5, so they almost nailed it with 47 points scored in this game. They had Carolina favored by 3.5. They did not cover, but look at us, SFL Nation, in the closest who you got of the week. 93-87, so only 6 votes separating us. We took Queen City to move to 2-2 on Sunday, moving in to Game 5 on Sunday, which, Bo, here's the deal. I took Vegas in the Survivor pool. Now, I haven't had a lot of confidence in San Diego, especially on the road. They seem to play a little better at home. Here's some interesting things, though. We've been talking about Optimus Klein and how he hasn't been in the stat sheet at all. I had a little conversation with him this week. Turns out there's been I guess some roster file issues with his player, and so he hasn't actually been in the starting lineup except for last week when he actually showed up and played a great game. My understanding from what he heard is this should be fixed going forward. It should be rectified going forward. So my question to this is, as we recap this game, also, if Optimus Klein is back where he's supposed to be in the roster file, this will obviously be better for San Diego going forward, but is it enough?
So what you're telling me, Dave, is that there's no excuse for Optimus having 0 receptions and only 2 targets in the entire game?
Other than the fact that he wasn't playing in the game? Yeah, no.
I was waiting. I was hoping you would mention something like that because that literally helps me to it further befuddles me rather in not understanding why Optimus is not more involved in the game. I tried my best to try to find something positive to say about San Diego. Because everybody wants to be loved, and at 0-7, loving can kind of be tough. So San Diego is like the girl at the party with low self-esteem. When the
Tyler was taking a drink when you said that. I think he almost spit that up.
Just when you're having a rough time and you seem to be striking out with all the other girls. There's always that one that if you approach her, you're going to have a good night. Enter the Las Vegas Fury, right? So Las Vegas is having an okay season. They come into the season at 2-3, 2-4 rather. So they're struggling to get going. They have good games and bad games, and here comes San Diego, which is just what the doctor ordered. 415 total yards had Las Vegas Fury, 195 yards in passing. But the killer is, in my opinion, if there was a player of the week for me, my player of the week would be Scott Johnson. Scott Johnson with 25 carries for a whopping 223 yards per carry with 2 touchdowns. a running back averaging 8.9 yards a carry is just insane. Those are receiving yard. If that would be a great day for a receiver, and he averaged those yards rushing. San Diego could do nothing to keep a drive going. The time of possession was dominated by Las Vegas. 25 minutes to not even 18 minutes by San Diego. San Diego had Jalen Wells. And I struggle to find something positive to say, and this is going to sound harsh, and it is harsh. And I'm not going to talk bad about him. I'm just going to read the numbers, but the numbers are harsh, so forgive me.
Yeah.
Jalen Wells with 15 carries for 23 yards, averaging 1.5 yards per carry. Now, if that wasn't lethargic enough, Jalen Wells had 7 receptions, Dave. Guess how many yards those 7 receptions netted for Jalen Wells?
I'm going to say 0 because I'm looking at the stat sheet.
Jalen Wells had 7 receptions for 0 yards. I don't even know how that happens.
Negative yards on swing passes, I'm guessing.
Negative yards on swing passes, but it happened, not on 2 carries, not on 4 carries. He had 7 opportunities for passes to get positive yardage and ended up with 0 yards. There's really not much positive for me to say about San Diego, with the exception of, they've got a new scout, and I hear he's pretty highly recruited. So, hopefully he can do some things for San Diego to help turn him around, because I know Jacob Clear really had some high expectations for San Diego, and Javier Vasquez just he's been having a really rough go of it.
Yeah.
I looked at his numbers. He's dead last in the SFL in 7 games. Javier has thrown 4 touchdowns, Dave. 4.
I'm hoping though, Bo. I'm hoping that the return of Optimus Klein will help that.
Well, when is he returning? Can you let me know?
This coming up week. This week.
No. When is he? Well, he was back 2 weeks ago.
No, right, and he had a good. No, last week he was back and he had a good game. This week he wasn't there. He didn't have a good game. He's supposed to be back again next week. So the one game that he was in that number 1 spot like he was supposed to, he had a good game.
Gotcha. So he was out last week.
I'm sorry. For week 7, he was in week 6 is what I meant by last week. Sorry.
Gotcha. Okay, so he was in 6 and then out again on 7.
Correct.
All right. So I'll give Optimus a pass, but that just goes to further say that San Diego's got a lot of work to do, and I know this is their inaugural season, so we'll give them a pass. Nobody expected them to win the championship this season,
right?
But in the same token, they've got a little bit of work to do. Shout out to Las Vegas though, taking advantage of the girl at the party with low self-esteem. They did not disappoint.
Yeah, well, speaking of low self-esteem, Jack's data had, dude, Hunter's going to kill me for that comment now. Over under 37.5, which is pretty close to 42 points scored in the game. Had Vegas score favored by 10, which they obviously just crushed it. And look at us, SFL Nation, taking Las Vegas 146-39 to go 2-1 on Sunday. Going into the last game, Tyler. Hopefully you can talk now after Bo got done beating up on you. I'm not going to call this an upset because Charleston is a really good team, but I am going to call this a surprise that LA was only able to muster up 7 points in this game.
Oh, we got to talk.
But we got to talk.
No, good. No, being 0-7 does hurt a little bit, but no, we're a new team.
Hey, I'm sorry, real quick.
Yeah, we're gonna make
real quick, Tyler. Ray in the chat said we can skip the next game, Dave. Ray, if I did my game, girl, you can believe we're doing this game. I'm just saying. All right, go ahead, Tyler.
So let's talk about LA, right? So for LA, first half, touchdown, first quarter, fantastic. Where'd the other 3 quarters go? What happened? Like the defense just kind of sputtered out and just was non-existent. They got into some prime opportunities, got way down into the red zone, but then threw a couple interceptions in the red zone. Like Sully Richardson has got to work on controlling the football just a little bit more. If you're LA, if you're Charleston, just continue to grind. That was a fantastic performance from Charleston, just grinding it out. And again, what are you doing to me, Dave? Both my last 2 games, the third down percentages have been almost identical, 35 and 27.
Yeah,
so
28 last time. Yeah.
A lot of punting, a lot of field position battles going on in this one. But Sully Richardson, 3 interceptions compared to TD Drew with throwing 1. And it's just a turnover battle, and Charleston was just more conservative. They looked to have complete lockdown besides one play. I'm referring to Charleston's defense against Los Angeles's offense. Charleston looked to have contain on almost every single one of their plays. All the defenders were swarming to the football. It didn't look like Richardson had very much to throw to, and I kind of understand now why he was, maybe throwing into coverage, because there was no one to throw to.
Here's the deal. It's hard to win in this league if you do a couple things. If you throw more interceptions and touchdowns, and if you have running backs that only rush for 2.5 yards per carry. Robert Johnson, 15 carries for only 41 yards, bro. That's not going to get it done in the SFL.
Yeah, it's kind of a sad sight to see, for any team to go through what Robert Johnson's doing. Just not able to get it going and making the team one-dimensional. Only 189 passing yards from Sully Richardson.
Yeah.
Charleston's defense. Charleston is, they're I believe 4-3 now. Yeah, 4-3, and LA's down to 4-3 now after taking a couple losses. Charleston's defense is no joke. When I was comparing them to Carolina got them on the win. Again, I said it was a fluke. I think Carolina is still an overrated team. It's just, Charleston has been the better team. Now they're finally back above 500. Let's see if they keep the momentum.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the defensive stats for Charleston. Johnny Bravo, Zach Lay, and Jack Brown all having picks. Lots of pass deflections, several tackles for loss. And they just seemed like they were just swarming this LA offense and just gave LA nothing, like no options at all, Tyler.
Yeah, it like I said, they were swarming to the football. Jack Brown had a nice interception at the end of the game. They had a couple nice interceptions near the end zone. Again, this Charleston defense knows how to play, and they know how to contain the pass and contain the run well. Only if 41 rushing yards for Los Angeles. So this defense is no joke. You cannot overlook them.
No. Interesting. A little spoiler alert. When we get to in a little bit, when we get to After Dark and we talk about the playoffs, there's something
playoffs.
We're talking about playoffs. There's something very interesting about Charleston. So a little teaser there for y'all. SFL Nation, here we go. We took LA 118-56, so we end up 3-3 on Sunday. The over/under on this game was 51.5. They came nowhere near that. LA was favored by 3.5. They did not cover, and we didn't cover either, going 118-56 for LA. Finished 3-3 on Sunday. We went 4-2 on Saturday for an overall record of 7-5. Definitely not our best work, SFL Nation. I will say, though, I survived in the Survivor pool, and that's what really matters. So there you go. Let's move on to Diva of the Week nominee for Season 16, Week 7. Wanted to let everybody know there were some great performances this week. There were several Diva moments, if you will. But nearly everyone in the Access Live, on the Access Live team, wanted to vote for the same person. So we are actually not going to have nominees and voting this week. We are going to have a nominee only, and the nominee is this. So sit back for the next couple minutes and check this out.
This sister's heartbreak is immense.
My brother was the biggest blessing of my life.
Evan was a good person.
He was something special. He will for always be something special.
Man, Evan, he just always has his hand out for everybody, and for things to go like they did with his situation, I don't see why somebody would want to do that to him, because Evan would never try to hurt anybody. He would try to help somebody.
He's always been a caring person, he'll put people first. He's never been a selfish kind of person. And I feel like he's always had an open heart with people. He's always seen the best in people, definitely.
Evan has always forced me to have confidence in myself.
With everything, like my best friend, like we did everything together. He was the brother I never had.
He was definitely family to me, definitely a brother to me, somebody that I feel like I could count on. I could call Evan if I needed something.
He told me never give up on my dreams, and it just always stuck with me. Like, I'm going through personal problems right now, and I wish he was here to talk to me about it, but I just remember in the back of my head, he always tells me, keep going. And it's like I hear him talking to me. I just try to, like, model my life after him. He's still living through me. So his dad was actually, like, my father figure growing up, too. So I actually go to him to talk about, like, stuff like I don't feel comfortable with talking to my mom about, you know, whether it's girl problems or, you know, just man things, you know, and he taught me how to be a man, so I talk to him every day.
Van, how you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm great. I'm anxious. I'm ready.
This has been a long road, my friend. I just want to ask you one question.
Okay.
Are you ready to play for Lone Star?
Absolutely. Without a doubt. Absolutely.
Let's do this. Let's get it done.
My wife is in the background dancing.
All right. Well, I'm going to start dancing here pretty soon. Well, God bless you, man, and welcome to the family. We can't wait to bring you in the locker room. Good things are coming down the road, and let's go win some games.
Thank you. Likewise.
All right.
Let's do this.
All right. Take care.
You too.
All right. Bye.
Evan was a great kid. Never, you know, everybody looked up to him as far as being a leader, as far as being a friend. Evan was 19 when he was murdered. My son was my hero. I can't express that enough. I mean, it's not, I don't even think that's common for a father to look at his son as his hero, but the way that my son was, his personality, his traits, his, you know, I thank God for giving me the strength and whatever else he blessed me with to raise such a great kid. And I feel honored to be his father.
So there you go, everybody. The Diva of the Week this week, and we'll announce it officially on Thursday, will be Evan Lacey. And I want to tell you, you know, last season when Rich Pratchett passed away, we made him the Diva of the Week as well. I think it's moments like these where we can all come together, regardless of all the differences of opinions and other things that may be going on. I think we can all agree on things like this, and these are the things that bring us together as a community. And I think that the fact that the entire team here at Access Live wanted to have the same person as their Diva of the Week speaks volumes. And so, but let's talk about Evan Lacey's stats in the game for a minute too, because not only you know, was it a great tribute this weekend, but Evan Lacey had 8 tackles, 2 assisted tackles. He had an interception, and he drilled one guy. I can't remember which receiver it was for DC. You know, a helmet right in the breastplate, just took him out hardcore. And then later in the game, hit Kevin Say so hard, he knocked him out for the rest of the game. So Evan Lacey played out of his mind. He had at least 2 or 3 diva moments, and you combine all of that great playing with the tribute from this weekend. I think it's a no-brainer that Evan Lacey will be your Season 16, Week 7 Diva of the Week. And we will have, on Thursday, we have the team already putting together. It's actually almost done already. We're going to have a whole couple minutes highlight clip of his game this past week when we announce his Diva of the Week. And then I'm going to ask his father, Van, obviously, to come on Thursday to accept the award and do pick'ems with us. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. No nominees this week, no voting. Evan Lacey will be your season 16 week 7 Diva of the week. So there you go.
Dave, could I just say one thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
And this goes out to LSG. We lost when Rich passed that game after the Mexico City.
Yeah.
And as much as you guys wanted to win and LSG wanted to win for the Lacey family, after this season is over and done with, the fact that he managed to actually get a pick in that game, it's going to be the only thing that you remember.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I appreciate that, bro. I appreciate that. It was very emotional, obviously for Van and the entire Lone Star locker room. So, we're like family, just like all of your teams are family. Our team and our locker room is a family as well. So thank you for that, Coco. That being said, let's go from being a little somber to being a little hyped up. What do you think, Tyler? Should we find out? He's like, should we find out what's going on tomorrow night at 8 p.m. and what's next on Netma?
Yeah, I just want to add one brief thing onto that as well, just from the unique perspective I have as a commentator. I was talking with Gerald Giudice, who was on the call with Andy Hamilton during that game, and from him to, or maybe they weren't on the call. I think it was Jack Brown and Eddie Gage were on the call, but I remember Gerald saying something about playing that tribute during the pregame show, and Gerald was saying coming into halftime and having a roller coaster game that he was in, and then being all hyped up for that, and then coming into the tribute for Evan Lacey, it just meant it's a roller coaster, and it meant so much. I think just the SFL that Evan's in the league, Van's in the league, and just the impact he's already had. So again, his story has not just touched just his surrounding area, but us as SFLers and as commentators and everybody else. So
and anybody watching that game or any of those games this weekend where we're shown, I agree with you.
Definitely. So last shout out, just Van's a fantastic person. If anyone needs to talk to somebody, Van's a fantastic person to get a hold of. So definitely chat with him. With that being said, it's time to put on the hype hat.
There you go.
Because I want to give proper respect to Van and the family. But next on Netma, Upset Central. A wild week in the SFL with multiple teams above the 500 mark fell to teams at or below the mark, including seeing the DC Dragons picking up their first win since rejoining the league. So what do these results mean as we continue our descent down the mountain? And then there was one. San Diego is still searching for their first win, and will they get one before the end of the season? And should Fort Worth or St. Louis be more worried after taking an L coming into Week 8? Tune in tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern on Netma.
Awesome. Thank you, bro. Appreciate that. 8 o'clock tomorrow night, always 8 o'clock on Wednesdays on Tyler's Twitch channel with his co-host, Kendra Hall. Real quick, I wanted to say, DR Sim put something in here. He said, it's amazing how this league has come together as a whole to uplift this family. This is one of the amazing reasons why I joined this league, because people care about one another. You said that very well. I think Van Lacey even said that DR Sim said that very well. Even when you don't see eye to eye, Demond. Imagine that. Let's move on to... What are we going to move on to? After Dark? Oh, no. Oh, I got to talk about Survivor Pool. Almost forgot about that. All right, so check it out. Last week, I told you guys over $3,000 pot. There were 10 entries left, with Johnny having 2 of them. This week, Yogi and Eagle both chose Lone Star and got knocked out. Johnny still has 2 entries left. So what is that? 1, 2, 4. So there's 7 entries left for the $3,150 pot going into Week 8. So just a little update for everyone. If you didn't play this year, this season, you might want to get in next season, because I think every season this pot goes up and it's only going to get bigger. So that being said, now let's go into After Dark for a moment, because I want to talk about what? I want to talk about playoffs. So I asked Cam. Cam was gracious enough to send me the new playoff rankings for me to talk about. He also sent me some notes with them that he wanted to share because he's not able to be on tonight. So I'm pulling up his notes as we speak, and let's talk about playoffs. These are the new playoffs after week 7. As you see, Denver is the number 1 seed. Florida jumps up to number 2. Baltimore drops to 3. Mexico City 4. St. Louis drops to 5. Fort Worth, I believe, dropped as well, even with winning. Los Angeles, Atlanta, Houston, Arizona, Vancouver, and Jacksonville round out the top 12. I said that there was something interesting about the playoffs when we talked about the Charleston game, and that is that Charleston is the only 4-3 team on the outside looking in. So they would technically be 13th in this situation, which you can see at the very bottom of the right-hand column. Here are the notes that Cam wants me to let you know as far as division races and playoffs. First and foremost, tiebreaker notes. Mexico City tops Fort Worth in the South Division on strength of victory. So that's why Mexico City leapfrogged Fort Worth in the standings, even though they're both 5-2. Los Angeles tops Vancouver in the Pacific on head-to-head. They're both 4-3. Fort Worth is the lowest ranked 5-2 team as a non-division winner. That's why they dropped, because last week when the initial playoff standings came out, Fort Worth was a division leader. So because they're not a division leader anymore, Mexico City jumps up, Fort Worth drops. Mexico City and St. Louis had the exact same strength of victory when comparing just the two. The Gladiators lose on common games to Mexico City. So that's why Mexico City is 4, St. Louis is 5, even though they're both division leaders. Los Angeles is slotted higher than all 4-3 teams as a division leader. Without leading the division, though, LA has the worst strength of victory right now of all 4-3 teams and would be on the outside looking in instead of Charleston if they weren't leading the division. Instead, that's Charleston, who just beat LA, and that's an example of divisions mattering. And then the last note he has here, 3 different times strength of schedule came into play for seeds 8, 9, and 10. Pretty uncommon to have it come down to that so many times, with all strength of victories being the exact same. It also happened for teams 11, 12, and 13. So 8 through 10 and 11 through 13 basically went to at least 3 tiebreakers to break this down. So that's how close all of these division and playoff standings are going into week 8. I'm going to go to the panel here on these. Coco, let me start with you. As you look at the playoff rankings, not the divisional rankings, but the playoff rankings, what stands out to you, or are you surprised by anything?
I think Mexico City was a team. I mean, we didn't really sleep on, but we were kind of wondering if they were going to be at 500 at this point of the season, and the fact that they're in the number 4 spot, I think has been pretty impressive. I mean, Ramos is great, but again, it was a big roster change for them, so it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, Robert, same question to you.
Yeah, I think the big standout to me right off the top of my head is Florida at the number 2 seed after, a week removed from losing to Sioux Falls, and that seeming like a much bigger deal than it actually was in the end.
Yeah, I was going to look too real quick. Hold on. I was looking to see who fell out besides Lone Star. I think Lone Star might be the only team. Yeah, I think it looks to me. I'm looking at last week's Denver, Baltimore, Fort Worth, St. Louis, Florida, LA, Mexico City, Jacksonville, Houston, Lone Star. So Lone Star, Bo, is the only team to fall out of the playoffs. I can't tell who jumped in their place. Oh, it was Vancouver, I think, right? Was it Vancouver? Yeah. So Vancouver jumps in, Lone Star jumps out. What stands out to you as you look at this week's playoff standings?
Well, that's going to be where I was going to go. Vancouver out, or excuse me, Vancouver in, and Lone Star out. Because I mean, I may be a little biased, so perhaps I'll come up with something else on that. So let's give another shout out to Atlanta and Tyler Falk's magical 2-10 prediction. And how about Atlanta being so far in playoff contention? So that stands out for me. I'm sure I may have taken Tyler's because I'm sure that has to stand out to him. But that's so yeah, take a drink, Tyler. That's what stood out to me.
Well, we can't go a single show without bringing that up. Apparently, Tyler, what stands out to you, bro? And let me also say, in addition to you saying the Atlanta thing, and I believe you said L.A. also, right? If it was either 2-10 or 3-9. I believe I heard recently you say on a show that Lone Star is not going to make the playoffs, and according to this week, you might be on track on that one.
Just hold everything here now, Dave. We know how my predictions go.
No, I actually like that you said that. I was like, oh, whoosh, all right, then we're going to make the playoffs.
It's the reverse psychology, right? It's the commentator's curse, or the commentator's, I don't know what is the worst of curse. Aid, maybe we'll go with that.
There you go.
It's all still. We got 4 or 5 more weeks of games left to go. So anything can happen. San Diego, probably has less than a percent chance of making the playoff if we win out. So who knows? Anything can happen.
So let me ask you guys this real quick too. I don't know if there's any questions or comments in the chat. If there is, I will look. And you're right. Oh, Fox London fell out, so I guess somebody else jumped in as well. If anybody else has comments or questions, let me know.
If I've got the playoff
from last week
order from last week up. If you want me to read it off quick.
Yeah. Just can you tell? So Lone Star and London fall out. Vancouver jumps in. Who else jumped in?
So let's
Arizona.
See. We have from last week. We have Arizona jumps in.
Okay.
We have Denver, Baltimore, Fort Worth, St. Louis, Florida, LA, Mexico, Jacksonville, Houston, Lone Star, Atlanta, and London. Those are the 12 that are in from last week.
So 2 teams out, 2 new teams in. Coco, going back to you, I'm looking at next week's schedule to see which games have playoff implications. Any of those, if you guys have time, I'm going to ask you all the same thing, so you have time to pull it up if you want. I see a few games. Charleston, Vancouver, St. Louis, Mexico City, L.A., and Atlanta. Of those 3, which ones do you think is probably the most important, or will have the most impact of those 3 games or 4 games?
Oh, I really don't want to talk about myself. It's just, we didn't play on last year, so I'm not even going to start. I think a big thing to me is a good measure of how LA's season is going to play out, I think, is really based on that Atlanta game.
Mm-hmm.
But another thing as well, it's not even how LSG reacts to Sioux Falls, who's been pretty great on the defensive side of the ball, especially because I think you guys play Houston in your last game of the season.
No, we play Fort Worth.
Oh, you play Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Okay. Man, that's a rough division.
It is. Dude, I'm telling you, I think we have the toughest division. But you think LA Atlanta is the game that may have the most impact?
Yeah, I mean, Sully has the capability to do a great defense. I think every once in a while he misses a little bit on it, but if anyone can control Atlanta, I think that defense has potential to do so. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they go against each other.
Okay, Robert, what about you? We've got, and it could be any other game too. Those are the ones that just have playoff teams playing against each other: Charleston, Vancouver, St. Louis, Mexico City, LA, Atlanta, and I forget what the other one was already. But or do you see another game that you think will have some serious playoff implications next week already?
I think the big one is St. Louis at Mexico City. St. Louis has been losing their footing, and Mexico City just keeps on moving up. This is a big game. If St. Louis loses 3 in a row, what do they do from there?
That's a good point, too. Bo Martin Jr., same question to you. What do you think, bro?
I'm actually looking at the Jacksonville game coming up. They've got a big game against Queen City. Now, Queen City currently is on the outside looking in at 3-4, but if they can beat Jacksonville, that puts them right at 4-4 with Jacksonville, and we could be seeing some more movement at the bottom of the wild card division. We could be looking at some movement there, because if Queen City can pull off a victory there, that could shake things up quite a bit. They'd both be at 4-4, and that could cause a tremendous ripple effect.
That's actually a great point. So all the 4-3 teams are in except for Charleston. Then after Charleston, Tyler, there's 6 more teams that are 3-4. So we could actually even see a whole bunch of flip-flop just next week. What do you think about that? And then what game do you think actually stands out to you as well?
Definitely. It's still really in the season. A lot of teams could jump up. A lot of teams jump down. So it's really going to be fun to see. But what I'm looking at, Dave, I'm also looking at a different game. I'm looking at Arizona and Louisiana. I think that's going to be a game to watch, because if Arizona can pull that one off, instead of maybe fighting for 6-6 and trying to make the playoffs, Arizona could easily go 7-5, 8-4 even. With how things are going. And for Louisiana, if they don't, start winning games, they got a real tough end of the season schedule here to finish out. If they don't win this game against Arizona, this season might be a lost cause for them. So that's going to be pivotal for both teams.
Yeah, a couple things in the chat real quick. DR Sim popping in again says Houston plays Fort Worth in week 9, Mexico City in week 12. And I mean, the Tex-Mex division is just crazy. It says this is going to be crazy for the South. So in week 12, you got Mexico City and Houston and Fort Worth and Lone Star. Probably huge playoff implications there. And then Fox says Mexico City plays a tough schedule down the stretch. St. Louis, Lone Star, Fort Worth, Baltimore, and Houston. So real quick, just maybe 30 seconds, Coco. What do you think about that Mexico City schedule down the stretch? And is it? And again, I haven't dissected their schedule, so I don't know. Are they the beneficiaries of the first half of the schedule when it's hard in the second half, or have they beaten some hard teams in the first half and they just have a tough schedule overall? But I mean, those last 1, 2, 3, 4, those last 5 games for Mexico City are no joke, bro.
I don't know. They faced some pretty hard teams. I mean, they lost to the Storm. They beat Sioux Falls, which seems to be, you just don't know sometimes where Sioux Falls is going to go in some of their games. Even the Predators went 19-13 against them, and that was a game. Oh my God, that was the first time it went off since we last went off.
since the last time it went off.
Come here, you piece of. Did you guys play them?
Did we play who? Mexico City?
Mexico.
Yeah, they crushed us.
Yeah, I didn't mean to rub it in. I'm just saying, and that's
okay. You guys it's the lowest scoring output of the season for us.
Charles does a really good job on defense, and that's
right.
I think that's a pretty good gauge of how that offense has been running. They do have a week 11 and 12 is really for Mexico City, I think, where they play Baltimore, and then they. What is that offense going to do against Houston, and is Houston going to be able to stop it? I think week 12 that's a pretty big factor.
Last couple of questions. I'm going to ask each of you one quick question, then we're going to wrap this up. Question for you, Robert Garrett Jr. How important is this London-Tulsa game coming up next week? I believe both those teams are 3-4, and both teams, the winner of that might have an avenue to jump into the playoff picture, with the loser possibly dropping out, almost maybe completely out of it.
Yeah, I think this is a big deal for both teams to stay in contention, but I think it's an even bigger game for London. We already talked about they were one of the teams that fell out of the playoffs in this week after the past games. So, it's going to be big for them to kind of establish their footing, make sure they can stay put, and at least grab a hold of one of those away spots.
Bo Martin Jr., DC just beat us couple days ago. Now they get to go home and they host the number 2 team in the league. Does Florida have anything to worry about? Because here's the thing: if they drop to 5-3 and a couple of those other teams move up, Florida could drop out of one of the home field or bye situations.
Does Florida have anything to worry about? Absolutely. And I say that meaning that they should, if the team is in the SFL, you should worry about them, because let's be honest, DC has been competitive in virtually all of their games. And I think they finally figured something out against us, unfortunately. I wish they would have figured it out next week or this week or last week.
Right.
But they've been close this entire time. And so DC's figured something out. And so Florida's a great team, but I would hope that Florida takes them seriously. Not to say that we didn't, but I think it's safe to say that we thought it was going to be a win for us. And I would have lost money because I would have bet on us if I was a betting man. But DC has figured something out. So yes, Florida shouldn't be overly concerned. I do think they'll get the win, but I don't think they should take them for granted.
Okay. Not a real playoff implication game, Tyler, this Denver at San Diego, and I'll ask you about that in just a moment. But let's talk about the team that Denver just played in Portland. Portland played Denver close like they always do. I just don't know if it's, some teams you just don't match up well against or whatever. But they play at Houston. Houston coming off a couple huge wins, beating Denver and then beating Louisiana. Could this be considered a trap game for Houston next week with Portland coming to town?
Say it's necessarily a trap game. No, I'd say Houston, understands the team coming in. Portland has only played Denver twice. And
3 times. Twice last season and once this season. But I believe one of the games last season was a blowout. So twice close, I guess. Yeah.
Right. So, Houston knows the team that's coming into their stadium this week. So I want to keep it short because I know we're, behind on time and I know people got to get to work here in the morning. But, for Houston, Houston's going to come in with the same game plan they've had last couple of weeks. Houston has played really well. Their defense has kept them in games and it has won them games here as of late. Their offense is starting to click together. Their new offensive coordinator's done pretty well. Houston's a good team, and they've really started to turn things around now here in this midway point of the season.
I am very interested for Thursday's show for us to see the point spreads because there's a few games here that I think if you're betting against the spread is going to be completely different than if you're picking Survivor, like who's going to win and who's going to lose. So looking forward to that on Thursday, along with a whole nother panel as we preview these Week 8 games, many of them having playoff spot implications. So want to throw out thanks to everybody real quick. Coco, Robert, Bo, and Tyler, as well as Gunny all the time. Of course, everyone in the chat. I love seeing you guys in here. Love that you guys gave us another hype train today. Saw that you had a lot of fun with the with all the new emotes, which I appreciate. I hope that you like them. Remember, if you have an idea for an emote, then you go ahead and throw it in the Access Live server. I left one blank so we could kind of talk about and decide what we want to put there. Also, I'm going to also I'll put it in probably tonight or tomorrow. I'm going to put a little poll in the Access Live server. Some people had asked about your Muted Bro t-shirts. Well, I got a design done up. They sent it back to me. We made some changes. We're on the cusp of getting this done. So if you're interested in that, I'm going to put a poll out there and see how many people are actually interested. And then, I'll put it in order if people want to get them, and I'll get you guys some of these T-shirts based on, I'll let you guys know costs and all that stuff or whatever. But if you're at least interested in exploring the option, I'll put the poll in there, and you can let me know about those. All right. And the emotes. Oh, and then hopefully by Thursday we'll have the loyalty badges for the for Twitch. So let me see a couple last comments real quick here. DR Sim said, we don't underestimate any team in this league, no matter their record. We are game planning for Portland accordingly as we would any else with a winning record. And Coco said, when Doyle can talk without referring to himself to third person. What did he say, Coco? What did I miss?
He asked when does Doyle get to come back?
I don't know, bro. You seem to pop in from time to time on your own anyway, so I guess it doesn't really matter. All right. All of that being said, let's wrap this shindig up. Thank you good to everybody. Appreciate all the panelists. Appreciate Gunny, everybody in the chat. Love you guys. Glad that we had, we're keeping up good numbers. Everybody's still interested in the SFL, and apparently you're interested in what we say about you. So that's a good thing too. Thanks for playing with the emotes and all for all the subs and the hype train and all that stuff in the chat. All right, I will be back here in a little less than 48 hours. I'll see you on Thursday night when we crown Evan Lacey the Week 7 Diva of the Week winner, and I'll have Van on to come on and accept the award and do pick'ems with us, as well as breaking down the Week 8 games. So, all right, see you in about 48 hours. Have a glorious Wednesday, and I will see you at the tees.